Does Oklahoma State have a legitimate chance to beat Oregon? And if they do, who's going to be the main quarterback for the Cowboys?
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back into the Portal Podcast, where you get your daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal scoop. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast your first listen each and every day. And we're doing a crossover today with one of my favorite guys to discuss anything and everything college football, Cody Stovall, on a Locked On crossover with Oklahoma State. And that's going to be a lot of fun. And today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Right now, with football season just getting started, visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets right now. We're going to be talking about the Oregon at Oklahoma State game in a lot of different ways. The priority is going to be the quarterback situation. Is it Haas Haney? Is it Zane Flores? Who's it going to be? And then Dante Moore, the quarterback for the Oregon Ducks. He's a guy that, quite frankly, well, he was a big-time recruit out of high school and he's starting to hit his stride. Is he hitting it sooner than expected? What can we expect against a very aggressive defense? I'm going to have Cody explain that here in a second. And then if we got time, we might hit on a few topics around college football as well. So Cody Stovall, thank you for coming on the show. You're the host of Locked On Oklahoma State. You probably know that program as well as anybody. So I'm going to throw it to you in two questions right off the bat. You can answer this in one or in combination, however you want. Number one, do they have a chance to win at Oregon? And two, what in the world should we expect from Oak State's quarterback situation? Because they played two in week one. Take it away.
Well, I mean, in the wild, wacky world of college football that we live in, of course there's a chance. We're going to have to create some chaos. We're going to have to get a few turnovers. If we just try to go 11-11 hat on hat, then it's going to be a long day. But I think that if we can create enough chaos and have enough creativity offensively, we can at least make this thing interesting. As it pertains to the quarterback situation, it's going to be Zane no matter what, because Haas is out a minimum of 5 to 8 weeks at the moment. So It's the Zane train moving forward, buddy.
Well, I knew he got banged up, but I wanted to hear it. I have a rule about press conferences and rumors about injuries.
Yeah.
Unless I hear it from a parent or that player, etc., I don't have any interest in it. So,
well, yeah, I actually I got blessed with this one, and I happened to get an update from somebody that was down there with Haas's family. So, unfortunately, I was abreast of the situation as it was unfolding. So it was very unfortunate.
Right. Well, I always give out hope, and because he's such a freaky athlete. Maybe at the end of the year when he gets healthy again, he can come back, but he's going to miss a lot of conditioning. So what we had thought is the reality. So Zane Flores, and by the way, it is pronounced Flores, as you told me before the show, not Flores.
Yes, correct.
All-time leading passer of the state of Nebraska. He's a freshman, played pretty well in his limited time game one. However you want to approach it, because Oregon's defense is legit. Like, they got dudes on dudes. There's no holding back on that. They got guys everywhere. What do you expect from him, and what do you think Gundy will, quote unquote, attempt to let him do against the Ducks?
Well, I think that any amount of reservation that we have offensively is not going to cut it. This is a game that you just have to let it rip, right? You have to let Zane cut it loose. And if that equals a loss, if it equals turnovers, then it is what it is. But we're going to have to find some creativity. We're going to have to find some nuance offensively to get Oregon on their heels, whether that be multiple packages with Zane at quarterback. And then we also have Sam Jackson V playing the slot receiver and being the return guy, who, as you well know, is a highly rated 4-star quarterback coming out of high school, was a pretty productive QB at TCU before transferring to Cal, and then making the transition to wide receiver at Auburn. Did he come to Oklahoma State to play quarterback? No, he did not. But I think that it would be wise for Oklahoma State to at least add a wrinkle of him in the backfield. Yeah. Because defensively, Oregon knows who Sam Jackson is, right? They played against him at Cal. He was a quarterback at Cal as well. So if they see him line up in the backfield, whether it be diamond formation, doesn't necessarily matter. That's a wrinkle that I think they have to pay attention to. The biggest question, Brian, is going to be, can we get a running game going? Because our running backs, both Freddie Brock and Caleb Hicks, had a propensity to bounce it outside the whole game against UT Martin, missing pretty open holes, right? The offensive line live looked like a massive deficiency, but when you go back and watch it, they did create some lanes. They did open some holes. Our quarterback and Zane Flores and our running backs, they just they chose not to utilize the holes for whatever reason. And you and I both know, as you've already alluded to, if you try to stretch it out against Oregon, yeah, that's not going to work. That's like there's only a handful of teams in the country that will never work on, and Oregon, unfortunately, is one of them.
Yeah, their speed is legit, and they're very well coached. So they run a pretty disciplined scheme for as many young players as they've had, and you got to give Dan Lanning and his staff credit for that. Yeah. So you have to run the ball between the tackles at least somewhat efficiently.
Correct. Which is why, Brian, it's imperative, in my opinion, that we get Trent Howland in this game, right? The 6'3", 345-pound back from Indiana that was Indiana's leading rusher before coming to Oklahoma State. He didn't get to play game one. I did have an opportunity to talk to some of the dudes. It's not an injury. It was just an internal you're probably going to have to sit in timeout this opening weekend. But if we don't have him against Oregon, I think it could be problematic for us. We're already missing our starting running back, Rodney Fields. If we don't have Trent Howland and we have to rely once again on Freddie Brock and Caleb Hicks, it could be a long day. However, Sesi Vailahe, maybe he doesn't have the explosiveness of Hicks. Maybe he doesn't have the speed of Freddie Brock. But in the world of earning stuff, he earned more carries. He was the only running back to put his head down and hit the hole hard. Even if it was just 4, 5, 6, 7 yards, he wasn't trying to hit home runs. He was looking for contact. He was trying to dish out punishment, and he was trying to get first downs. That's what we need in this Oregon game.
I'm curious on Hicks. They gave him 21 totes in the first game. That's a lot.
It is. 2.7 yards per, I believe.
Yeah, 2.67 to be exact. So rounding up, you're right. That's pathetic for what the offense can be, because Gundy, like, he knows how to scheme up run game. He is tremendous at it. So part of that's going to be at least on the running back. Maybe not all, but part of it's got to be on the kid himself.
If you even look at the NFL right now, you've got Chuba Hubbard, you've got Jalen Warren, you've got Justice Hill. We just had Chris Carson. People forget that Tyreek Hill was a running back at Oklahoma State. The running back position in Stillwater is above all else, right? And we saw it recently with Ollie Gordon. So to not have a 100-yard dude, it's perplexing. And again, live, it was like, oh, great. Same song and dance as last year. The offensive line is anemic, and they can't block anybody, and our running backs are going to hit in the backfield 51.8% of the time, just like Ollie did. But again, you go back and watch it, that's not exactly the case. They open lanes, which you expect them to do against UT Martin, but for whatever reason, our running backs weren't utilizing them. And as you mentioned, Caleb Hicks, yes, there was a lot of talk about him being the spring MVP and the fall MVP. So there's a massive expectation for him in game one, and it was unfortunately very underwhelming. But again, if you know you don't have Rodney Fields and you know you're going to have to be in some short yardage situations, that's why I think we need Trent Howland back in the mix to complement, because both Freddie Brock and Caleb Hicks are home run threats, right? But obviously they don't necessarily have the willingness to just hammer down in the A-gap. We need that.
Yeah, sometimes the most important run, and this from talking to guys that have played where they get paid.
Yeah.
It's the 3-yard run.
Yes.
And it's a train wreck. Nobody likes it.
Sorry. Yeah. Chris Carson was a backup in Stillwater. He only had, like, his last year, like 630 yards rushing, to something to that effect. But he was massively important for the Cowboy offense. And then you saw what he did in Seattle. Like, he went from a 7th-round draft pick that nobody really thought would make the roster because he's such a niche style of running back. And then he has a 7-year career, something to that effect. And he would probably still be the starter if he wouldn't have that major neck surgery. So we need that kind of guy. I think Trent Howland is that dude. And you're right. Oregon, yeah, they are as advertised. Right? I'm not going to sit here and pretend otherwise. There's no disillusionment in Cowboy country. We have enough individual horses to make this thing interesting, but holistically, we're probably looking at a loss, and that's okay, right? We don't want consolation prizes, but if you keep it tight with Oregon on the road, who is a viable certifiably good top 3 style of team from what we've seen in week 1, then, I mean, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. When we come back, I want to flip it to the other side. You and I had a conversation the other day on the phone, and you gave me some details about how the defense, how fall camp was different. And like, I have a lot of contacts in college football. Stillwater is not one of them. So you're my guy on this. I want people to know what Oklahoma State has and what Dante Moore, a guy that I know and I respect, at quarterback is going to be facing. That is next here on this crossover with the Locked On Portal and Locked On Oklahoma State. All right. If you haven't already gotten with the program with DoorDash, now is the time, because it's almost the weekend again, and it's time to look back and crown this week's MVP. I've got Tommy Castellanos for Florida State for upsetting Alabama. And if you're really looking at it, honestly, DoorDash can be your MVP too, because every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order, these players delivered it and mattered the most. So let's break it down. Castellanos had a rushing touchdown. He had 2 money ball throws down the field. He also was the guy that didn't force the ball into coverage and just led Florida State to a victory. And you can do that with your DoorDash order as well. So when the pressure is on, no hesitation, go ahead and order DoorDash, just like he did for Florida State. Tommy Castellanos delivered, and DoorDash delivers for your Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. You can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. So if you want to have a good time this weekend, check it out with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo code is good through November the 18th. This show is also brought to you by our friends over at Mazda. The Mazda is something that you should also check out, because it is brought to you by those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. Those big moments, because these moments do more than win. They push what's possible. They remind us to go that extra yard, shift into that extra gear, and keep moving the game forward. If you want to have fun watching college football, there's a lot of different games, a lot of different teams and players to check out. But the clutch plays are what we always look for. In college football, in its chaotic nature, there are so many different things going on. Enjoy it. Have fun with it. But also take it to the brink. And that's what Mazda does as well. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to Mazda vehicles. Mazda, move and be moved. Thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast and Locked On Oklahoma State your first listen each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Cody and I truly appreciate it. And now, Cody, I'm going to give you the floor to define, however you want, as much or a little, depending on how you want to protect sources, what Oklahoma State changed in some capacity in their offseason and their fall camp, and what Dante Moore and the Ducks are probably going to have to face quite a bit this coming Saturday. What do you got, brother?
Well, I will admit to you, I'm very intrigued by segment 3, because I've had some things to say about Dante Moore. So your opinion is extremely valid and welcomed. But as it pertains to what he's going to be going up against, this is the excitement factor in Stillwater right now. Obviously, you know, when you had the full complements of guys like Haas Haney doing the daggone thing, that's big time. But at the same point in time, this defense is what has been the talk of the town all throughout fall camp. Todd Grantham has brought in an SEC NFL-flavored staff with over a decade's worth of experience in both, and it's reflective at practice. This is the most intense, physically flying around, getting into people's faces, and just producing a ton of physicality. Now, does that always equal what you want it to on the field? No, not necessarily, but you have to start somewhere. And I think that we can all agree that Oklahoma State this previous season was kind of soft, especially in the offensive line. This defense is operating significantly different. It's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of blitzes from different angles. It's a lot of creativity. And I know Todd Grantham gets a hard time for the third and Grantham thing at Florida. But if you also go back and look, in 2018, he had the number 2 overall defense in the SEC, the number 7 ranked rushing defense in America. If he can bring something close to that in Stillwater, we're very excited. If you noticed, Wendell Gregory, the South Carolina transfer, tied an all-time Big 12 opening freshman game record with 3 sacks. And then, you know, he didn't even play the entirety of the full game. Afterwards, he was asked, It's 3 sacks. That's a really good start. And he said, it's not enough. I have to do more in Oregon. Then you have Brian McCoy coming over, 14 tackles, 5th-round draft grade from Akron. Brandon Rawls actually kind of surprised some people because he beat out Trip White, the Ole Miss transfer, for the other linebacker spot. He ended up with 11 tackles against UTM. They both got in the backfield. Jaleel Johnson looked really, really good. The front 7 defensively is going to be the calling card of this defense. What we do not know is what the back end looks like. We think it's better. It's definitely more talented athletically, but they didn't get pushed against UT Martin, right? So we don't know what we have. And whenever you have guys like DeCorian Moore and Gary Bryant, it's going to be a tall task, and we're going to find out. We have confidence in the D-line. We have a lot of confidence in the linebackers. We don't know what this back end is going to look like, and this is going to be really the first big test. All we can ask for is constant pressure 24/7, because I think that if you get to Dante Moore enough and you get him off platform and you get him uncomfortable, that is going to be the opportunity for Oklahoma State to induce a couple turnovers and make this thing somewhat interesting. But I tell you, the confidence in the offense obviously is not super high after the UTM game. The confidence in the defense, however, that is significantly different. If our defense doesn't produce like we think they could, then it could be a very long day for my Cowboys, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, that's the question. Right. Can you cover guys like Bryant, Moore, etc., and Sadiq?
Yeah, Sadiq's a beast, bro.
That dude is like
that
is yoked.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. He's what a tight end looks like in modern college football going to the NFL.
100%. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious about how they try to get him on linebackers. But I want to circle to something that you said. I was going to ask it anyway. Can they cover? So my secondary question is, do you think they're just going to go more jailhouse blitz, cover 0, or at least try to make Dante throw fades and stuff and quick slants?
Yeah.
Because it's one thing to pressure with 5. It's another to pressure with 6. That's when it gets – it doesn't sound like much, but that one extra defense, like somebody's coming free.
Right.
Some quarterbacks can't handle it. Now, Dante hasn't really seen that much. He played a little bit at UCLA, barely played at all last year.
Right.
From Oregon because they had, a 6-year senior. Do they have a situation where they can't figure that out? That's probably what Grantham and those guys are like. Should we just roll the dice here? Because if this works, there's really nothing they can do to fix it. But if it doesn't work, it can go sideways. What would you do? Would you just go jailhouse, or would you just kind of mix and match?
I mean, cover 0 is probably a little risky. But I do think that we're going to have to overload the box occasionally. We're going to have to send some corners and some safeties on some uniquely designed blitzes, which means we are going to leave some things open in the back end. But I think that if we try to play coverage, then we're just basically giving the advantage to Oregon. Because as we'd mentioned, you got guys like Bryant, Gary Bryant Jr., you got guys like DeCorian Moore, Kenyon Sadiq. If you let Dante Moore sit back there for 5-6 seconds, those guys are eventually going to get open. And even if they don't get open, you have to trust a lot of those guys in 50-50 ball scenarios. So I firmly believe that if Grantham doesn't create constant chaos in the backfield, then that would be problematic for the Cowboys. I'm not saying we're not good enough to play coverage, but I don't think we are against their horses all game.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too. So that brings us to the subject matter that we'll end with here after the break. Dante Moore's a kid I know from high school that was elite. Cody has an opinion about who he'd rather see in the game. We're going to get into that. Oregon fans may be a little offended, but Cody doesn't care. I can assure you of that. That is next here on this crossover, Locked on Oklahoma State and Locked on the Portal. All right. FanDuel is on sponsor for us again. And right now with the NFL season getting rolling, it's almost here this coming weekend. FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use all across the FanDuel app. If you like it for over-unders on win totals, maybe the Bills, maybe it's the Chiefs, maybe it's the Colts or anybody else, certainly optional. And if you like MVP races, I kind of think that Joe Burrow is going to win MVP this year, but we'll see. There's all kinds of different ways you can use it on FanDuel. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app and use code or visit FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. And this show is also brought to you by our friends over at Upside. Hey, college football fans, if you're still paying full price for gas, why? Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play and start earning cash at the pump today. Use promo code FOOTBALL and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You could make up to $300 back, and you're going to buy gas anyway. At first, you may have thought, this is not true, but it is legit. Real people getting paid to do their daily commutes. That is what it's all about. Don't let this offer drive by. Download the free Upside app now using limited time promo code FOOTBALL for 25 cents per gallon bonus. That's promo code FOOTBALL. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. All right. This is the moment Cody's been waiting for. I'll start with this. Dante Moore, I knew him in high school. He was an elite quarterback. Everybody wanted him. Ends up at Oregon after transferring from UCLA. Cody has a different take. He'd rather Dante be the quarterback for this game, which I found surprising when I talked to him the other day. So I'm going to let Cody explain why. Fire away, brother.
Well, you can't really always take what something freshman season looks like in the future, right? And you kind of alluded to that. True freshman UCLA, 1,600 yards, 11 TDs, 9 picks, 52% completion percentage. Not all bad. But, you leave something to be desired. He didn't get to play a lot last year. But here's the thing, man. I think Oregon fans have gotten a little too bougie with the fact that they've gone from Bo Nix to Dylan Gabriel to Dante Moore and have an expectation that he's going to be in the same hemisphere as those individuals. Talent, he has it, right? As Cowboy Country would say, he has the zip, he has the speed. But I watched the spring game, and as you and I have discussed previously, it's almost what I saw from Montana State, right? In the spring game, he threw a couple NFL-level dimes, followed by a couple dead ducks that wouldn't be good against anybody. And I thought some of the same things about Montana State to some degree. So if there's any vulnerability I see with Oregon, it is Dante Moore. I think Austin Novosad's ability to pick people apart in the pocket could be a little bit more problematic for the Cowboys. So this is really something that I think we could potentially exploit here. If you get to Dante Moore, you get him off his platform, you make him uncomfortable. He does have a propensity to turn the ball over. This is our opportunity in this ball game, in my personal opinion. But you covered him at a higher level. You've seen some things out of him that I'm not privy to. So maybe you can help dispel my myths. But, people tend to forget Zane Flores was a top 15, Elite 11 guy at the very end. So he carries a lot of cachet too. He just didn't have the same recruiting acumen. Therefore, I don't think he's viewed in the same light as Dante Moore. I just I don't entirely buy the Dante Moore hype, buddy.
I don't necessarily buy it completely either. And he's one of the guys that I led my Thursday show with. Like,
gotcha.
Is he the guy? I mean, if he is, they can win. They can win it all. If he's not, then they'll just make the playoff and get smoked.
100%.
It's a very making the playoff and making a run is the difference between Jupiter and Mars, like the distance. Like
yes, we saw that last year. There is a massive differentiation between team number 12 and team number 5.
Oh, yeah. Ask Tennessee, 8-9. It's still
there you go.
Story. So my question is, kind of goes back to the last segment. Can he handle pressure? We know they're going to bring cover zero a few times, but they're also going to mix and match. They might do some fire zone. They're going to do some different things. It depends on what Grantham and his staff feel comfortable with giving his players, because their playbook is massive. Now, can college kids handle it? That's the conversation you don't know.
You nailed it. Yeah, you're right. We could go from cover 0 to cover 3 cloud and one play's difference just to give him some different looks. You're right. The question is, game 2, are the players going to be able to take the complexity of the defense and make it applicable on the field? That's the scary part.
Yeah, I know from just being at games, and I know how a bust can change a game. I was at the Notre Dame-Miami game. Notre Dame got beat the whole game, and they had a bust in the secondary, and Notre Dame came back and tied the game after a bust, one play.
Yeah.
So if you have that and you're not the better team anyway, you give Dante a free touchdown somewhere in there, you could light the fire.
For sure.
And that's why college football, I always say this, and credit Spencer McLaughlin, it's the greatest game on planet Earth because of this. We don't know how the blitzes are going to work. Does it really impact Dante? Do the offensive linemen, few of which, transfer portal guys, etc., newbies, do they handle it well? If they get beat, how do they handle that next rep? So many little intricacies to the blocking scheme when you're going against a team that's going to bring the house like State is. I think that's fascinating. And this, for the record, especially since it's a West Coast game, this game will not get the coverage that it deserves remotely because it's West Coast. If this game was played in Chicago or New York or somewhere on the East Coast, it would probably get more discussion. But that's, media is media. I think this is one of the cooler off the radar games, and it shouldn't really be. It's not a great weekend of games, to be honest, in my opinion.
Yes.
Nowhere near the first week. It's not even in the same stratosphere.
Right.
So we'll see. But any final thoughts on what Oklahoma State has to do to compete with Oregon this weekend?
We just got to turn it into a fist fight in a phone booth, right? Again, if we try to turn this thing into a track meet without Hobbs Haney, it's going to be a long day. We do have to, I think, simplify the game, not necessarily a clock management game, because I don't think that is this team. Our offense needs to function with at least some semblance of tempo occasionally. But yeah, the key to the game is going to be creating chaos and creating turnovers. If we have 0 turnovers, I think we might have 0 chance of winning the ballgame. But if we have 3 turnovers, this could be a dogfight to the fourth, and that's precisely what we're looking for. This defense needs to make a statement. Todd Grantham needs to make a statement because, according to Florida fans, these are the games that Todd Grantham could never quite get over the hump in. He could dominate everybody else. He could dominate on first and second down, get in the backfield, sacks, TFLs, all that. But the big games on third downs and crucial moments is where Todd Grantham and Florida fans had a little bit of a divorce, right? So the question is, did he go to the Nick Saban retooling school of Alabama and learn something? Probably. Did he get to work with Dan Lanning and learn some things from him? Probably. Is he going to be able to make it applicable in this game? That's the question. I think we have the individual dudes to make crazy stuff happen. When you talk about guys like Wendell Gregory and Jaleel Johnson and Demarion Thomas and Brian McCoy, we have enough guys individually to make this thing interesting. And lastly, I'll leave this with a little segue because it's what I'm going to talk about today on my show. What is big time players make big time plays in big time games. Oklahoma State has to have a couple dudes that come up out of nowhere and have Blitnikoff, Heisman, O'Brien style of games. They absolutely have to. So whether it be Terrell Davis or Christian Fitzpatrick out at wide receiver, if we don't have a Des Bryant type of performance, probably not going to get it done. If we don't have an Emmanuel Ogbah or Malcolm Rodriguez, Nick Martin style dude out there creating chaos in the backfield, probably going to be a long day. So there is excitement. Like collectively as a team, are we as good as Oregon? No. Should we beat Oregon? No. But I think we've got enough individual horses that if those individuals make big-time All-American plays, we're definitely going to have a fighting chance. This ridiculousness that Oklahoma State's going to get beat by 29.5, Brian, is a massive slap in the face. I know Oregon fans are trying to manufacture bulletin board material with this piece of groundbreaking news that, did you know Oregon spends a lot of money in NIL? Like, apparently it's offensive that Mike Gundy even mentioned that they spend a lot on the roster, right? But that's what it is. This is a David versus Goliath NIL battle. That's what it's turned into anyways. And there's some validity to it. Oklahoma State spent $2 million on their NIL 2 years ago, $5 million last year. It's purported maybe around $13 million this year, which means in the last 3 seasons, Oklahoma State spent less in NIL than Oregon did last year alone at $23 million. This is it's going to be fun, man. We have to show up and turn this thing into a war. But I do think that there's enough animosity building on both sides for that to happen.
Cody, tell everybody where they can find your work, my friend.
You find me locked on Oklahoma State, out on the road, covering some 7-on-7 recruiting with Prospect Sports, Epic Sports, at All Day O State on X, and then O State All Day on all the other social media platforms.
Appreciate it, brother. You can find the Portal Podcast wherever you get your pods, on Podbean, Apple, Spotify, and of course on YouTube. Please download and subscribe. We will see you again soon. This has been The Crossover, Locked on Oklahoma State and The Portal.